Hi everybody, welcome back to the Dr. Sia channel. In today's video, we're going to be talking about the relationship between psychology and astrology. Is there a relationship? How come some people swear that there is a relationship? How come some people swear that they are somehow affected by what happens outside in the cosmos somewhere? Well, I think it's worthwhile talking about. Let's get started. All right, so one thing that I've found is that a lot of people who are interested in psychology in one way or another also turn out to be interested in a lot of other phenomenologies, like astrology, for example. So I think it's worthwhile talking about if there is a relationship between psychology and astrology. Now, one of the things that happens is that a lot of people who believe in astrology will swear that somehow if there's a full moon or if the stars are aligned in a particular way, that it sort of says something about them as a person. That if they have a particular horoscope, for example, that will say something about them then. If they're are a Capricorn, then they swear that the friend of theirs that knows about astrology and is an astrologer or does horoscopes and things like that, that the things they say about them are so true, and even to the point where they can even predict the future, that they can say, all right, you know what, if there's a full moon, you're going to be feeling like this or feeling like that. So we have to firstly just assume that these people are not lying, right? It would be really easy to just say, yeah, but they're just lying because they want to further their agenda somehow. So we have to sort of assume that that's not the case because, I just don't think that there are that many people out there who are out to lie just to fool people, I suppose. So let's believe that people who are into astrology somehow that they're not lying, and that they actually believe in this, and that then they do persistently see a relationship between the stars and how they align and people's psychology, meaning how people are feeling inside. Now, if we think about it, it's actually not so weird to understand. Relying on astrology to understand what happens within us is not so very different to relying on anything else outside of us to understand how things happen within us. Meaning, if we look at astrology as externalizing, meaning that we are looking at things that happen outside of us to understand why things happen within us, and we call that externalizing, at least in intensive short-term dynamic psychotherapy sort of theory, we call that externalizing. Then people use externalizing to explain more than just astrology. People will often use things outside of them to explain what happens inside of them. They might say, I'm really anxious today because of things that are happening in the world. I'm anxious today because of how the stars are aligned. I'm anxious today because I heard about a car crash. I'm anxious today because there were people yelling at each other in the supermarket. I'm anxious today because I heard that the financial situation in the country is getting worse. I'm anxious today, I'm anxious today, I'm anxious today. Now, if you think about that, all of these are ways to use the information we get from outside, occurrences outside, events outside of ourselves to understand something about how we feel inside. In that sense, astrology is really no different. What happens is for us as human beings is that when we have experiences from within, if we rely on trying to understand those experiences from within by looking at events that happen outside of us, like all of these things that I've already mentioned, then our mind could get sucked into understanding what happens within us through any form of event, whether it be astrology or any other logy or any other event that has happened. So why not astrology then to do that? Why not trying to understand ourselves through the things that happen outside? Well, it's because, and here is the problem, that when a thing happens from the outside, meaning, for example, there's a full moon, yes, some people will say that they are affected in a certain way by a full moon, but there'll be as many other people who say that they're affected by the full moon in another way, in a third way, in a fourth way, in a fifth way, or not affected at all. So in that sense, when we use events that happen outside of us, like astrology, like the stars aligning, like if there's a financial crisis, like if there's whatever, if we use those to try to understand what happens within us, we just will find that it's not going to be very reliable. It's not going to be a very precise understanding. And more often than us being able to share that understanding with other people, we're just going to be confused, because it seems like if we're 10 people are affected in 10 different ways by the full moon, by the stars aligning. 100 people are going to be affected in 100 different ways by the stars aligning. So really, there's no real predictability in it. There's no reliability in it. There's no ability to say when human beings are seeing, or when there is a full moon, human beings will react like this. And because we can't then do that, then there is really no point. So what psychology tries to do is, instead of looking at how things outside of people will inevitably affect a person, it looks at what things do we have inside of us. How are things inside of us affecting things inside of us? Therein, we find a lot of predictability, a lot of reliability, that we can really rely on understanding those things. So when we, for example, say that a person has an avoidant attachment, for example, and that something within them makes them want to avoid things consistently, then we can rely on that. We can count on that happening, and we can count that everyone and anyone that has an avoidant attachment will be, in general, attempting to turn away from the things that cause them emotional hurt and pain, as opposed to turning towards those things. That gives us a reliability, an ability to understand those people. It becomes, if 1,000 people have an avoidant attachment, then 1,000 people are likely to behave in similar ways, do similar things, react in similar ways. Now, if 1,000 people see a full moon, they will all react and behave in completely different ways. So it can't be the full moon that's causing it. It can't be the stars aligning that's causing it. It must be something else. I spoke to a very good colleague of mine who's a psychologist who used to be an astrologer, and she said more often than not, to explain the stars aligning and how it would affect people, and the full moon, how it would affect people, she would actually rely on psychological literature. So she had realized that it wasn't the stars aligning that helped her understand people. It was the fact that she went to psychological literature to understand people. And then she would just say things like, yeah, when a person has full moon, then she would go on and, for example, explain things that are about attachment. So in that sense, yeah, people can keep looking at anything outside of them to explain what happens inside of them. But the problem with that is that it's not going to really be the true cause. It's not going to be the real reason for why we have these experiences inside. And that is what the problem about those things are. In a sense, we become misguided. We put our faith, our belief, our understanding onto things that seem like they have a relationship with what happens inside, but they're not the things causing the things inside. If we can turn away our attention from those things and turn our attention to the things that happen inside of us, then we're going to find a more reliable, precise, and predictable explanation for what is happening within us. I hope you found this video useful. I hope I haven't offended a lot of people out there. I'm sure I have, in a way. And that is scary, because I know that people who believe in things like astrology will find that this video is quite hard for you, and my perspective on it might be quite hard, but that's fine, because, you know, hey, science. Anyway, I hope I see you again next time. Please subscribe, please like, please press that like button, please do so, please comment, and yeah, subscribe, please, it helps a lot. And yeah, I'll see you next time. And I'm not scared at all that people are going to comment really bad things about me on this, not at all. Not, you know, science. Science. I'm out.